There we go. Sweet, we are live online. I'm Ferris. I'm the head of this little meetup group. We've been a group for what, 5 years now, officially, as of last month. It's pretty crazy. Nobody in the room who's an original founder, but if you know Joe Reese and Dylan Gregerson, they are some of the people who helped start this meetup group. As of mid-January, we are now cleared to request charitable something or other from the state of Utah. We're supposed to get nonprofit status, but that whole government shutdown kind of got in the way. So we're still waiting for federal approval on our 501c3 compliance stuff. But because of the Utah thing, we already got our first bonus or whatever, like our free thing, which was anybody on the Salt Lake City Slack, the Python Slack? Anyway, anybody try to send a taco to somebody yet? So we have Hey Taco, so you can just send people tacos on the Slack or give them people tacos for good insights on things. You get 5 tacos a day. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yes, it is a gathering of taco emojis. The person with the most tacos by December will get a special prize. We also have a Patreon now. I did send an announcement about that. The first 10 Patreons will get a free Python t-shirt. You just need to put in at least 1 month worth of Patreon. So that's pretty much, if you want to be like super cheap, you could get like a $20 t-shirt for $10 because you just sign up for a month and then back out like a jerk. Or you can just subscribe to the Patreon. This whole thing, we stream it live. You can go to this link. I should probably shorten it somewhere. You could go to that link and get some merch. That merch will directly fund your local little meetup group. So it seems higher priced, but that's just the offset for this. Here's a piece of merch. We got coffee mugs. We have shirts. Lots of fun stuff. Usually we'll have pizza from the pie. Again, they're late. Thanks, Obama. We got, so that's the introduction. Salt Lake City Python was founded as a response to not having a meetup group in Lehigh. Lehigh's great, but nobody wants to drive to Lehigh during rush hour. So we do work with a Lehigh group they're known as PyWasatch. Everything's under the Python Utah umbrella. There's also Python Utah North based out of Logan. They meet, I believe, the 3rd Thursday of the month. Everybody has their own day. There's the data engineering meetup. That's also a great one you could attend. That's from one of our members, Joe Reese. Isla, have you presented there?
Yeah.
So Isla's presented there. So they've had awesome speakers already. If Isla's spoken there, then it's a legit meetup. PyLadies, anybody from PyLadies? Isla, do you want to give a quick PyLadies spiel?
PyLadies is another Python programming meetup. It is, its mission is to encourage women to join in the Python programming community, but most of the meetups are open to all gender flavors. We're very welcoming. The last talk was Algorithms and Data Structures by Lisa. I don't think she's here, sadly. It was a really good talk, so the quality of talks are really, really high too.
Sweet. Python at the point, that's what I was talking about. Oh yeah, Wasatch got rolled into that. That's how it works. Can you tell I haven't been to one of their meetups yet? But, yeah. Anybody been to the Python at the point meetup? There we go. Hello. Do you know what the...
It's at noon, isn't it? Like Thursday or something?
Did they change it to middle of the day on me?
I think so. Like I went to one where it was like, they just did like quiz thing at noon.
Cool. Yeah, there's lots of little lunch meetups. This one is not the Salt Lake City Python. We've typically been an evening meetup, but there has been talks about doing like a blender lunch sometime. That would be kind of fun. But those longer workshops, just a bit of a different time investment. So January something, I don't know when that was. So I'm just gonna delete that, pretend that wasn't there. PyData SLC, there's the SLC dev meetup that was restarted by somebody here. And yeah, we have websites, that's fun. Anytime you have a talk that's on GitHub, we'll try to fork it over to SLCPython. Quick thank you to sponsors. They're the ones who pay for the pizza, which we're still waiting for. Pythonistas like you, thank you. Pat on the back. If you haven't had a chance to give a $5 donation because I haven't been set up with the Square yet, sorry about that. I'll get right on that when we're getting pizza. For those who've had donated in the past, thank you so much. Like, we're doing awesome. All of our accounting is on /money. Special shout out to X-Mission. X-Mission, can I give the spiel? Matt White is CFO there, so you're CFO? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, sad face. But X-Mission, if you want your packets to get deep inspected to make sure that you're above the board with everything that you're looking at, use Comcast. For X-Mission, it's, they're not going to do that stuff. They're not going to tunnel you because you accidentally downloaded one Ubuntu ISO via torrent. They're not going to do any of the traffic shaping or any of that. They've been around since what, 96? Oh, 93. Wow. I still have the dial-up tone of hooking into Salt Lake. X-Mission. University of Utah for the venue. Meetup.com because they now sponsor us. We don't have to pay the meetup fee anymore. So that's nice. Tech Systems has given us all kinds of random goodies. They help sponsor the orange pies from the soiree. Who went to the soiree, by the way? Who won an orange pie? Yeah? Have you tried busting it out yet?
No.
No?
No.
Dang.
I agreed to give 2 talks this month. I don't have
Okay,
time.
there you go. Give talks. Let's see. ConsultNet, they've also sponsored Raspberry Pis. New sponsors always appreciated. Just be sure to hit me up on the message. I believe there's somebody who did hit me up a couple days ago, but I haven't gotten back to them, but we'll pretend I didn't say that. Yeah. New members. Who's new here? Lots of new faces, I noticed. So if you're new, we like to do a thing where we get to know you. Code is for people. That's like one of the credos about this thing. So we want to get to know some people here. So we're going to say your name, your occupation, and your spring cleaning goal, and it can't be programming spring cleaning. I don't want to hear about any bug fixes or upgrades, okay? Is that a dog? Yeah? Okay, we're good? Oh. Is it a guide dog? If it is, I know who it is. Oh, hey, how's it going? Long time no see.
Yeah.
Is the dog okay?
Yeah, it's just got his foot cut into the door there.
Ow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He let me know he didn't like it.
Yeah, we're just doing intros. So, name, occupation, spring cleaning goal. I'm Ferris. I'm senior backend janitor at Team/WeWork. So I clean up people's code, which is why I'm talking about spring cleaning, but I don't want to talk about code. Spring cleaning goal, my basement. Like, holy moly, I have way too much crap, and it does not spark joy and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, that's my spring cleaning goal. You want to go ahead, introduce yourself?
I'm John Stokes. I'm retired. I've looked at R a little bit. I want to look at Python too.
All right. You're here to learn some Python?
Yeah.
Sweet. And then what's your spring cleaning goal, John?
Looking at investing.
Investing? Sounds good. All right. Who else is new in the back?
I'm Stefan. I'm actually a student here at the U, and otherwise unemployed. Spring cleaning goal, I have a really nice desk that is covered in stuff, just like papers and old dusty things that I need to take care of.
Does not spark joy.
No, not at all.
Who else?
I'm Neo Perdozo. I'm a project manager for American Express. I don't know coding, but I want to learn if I can. And my spring cleaning is pretty much like yours, my basement. Too much stuff there.
Doesn't spark joy?
No.
I should stop saying that. It's getting old. Who else? In the back over here.
I'm Lauren. I'm a graduate student here. I'm not department. And my spring cleaning goal is I have a lot of student papers that I'm supposed to get rid of. And I still have
So that's where they go.
yeah, it's not really my office. It's full of old exams.
There you go. In the back.
Jared, I'm a software developer for the insurance company here in town.
My spring cleaning goal is to clean my office at home.
There you go. About this gentleman.
I'm Drew. I work at Python XYZ as an intern, teaching everything. And my spring cleaning goal is my bookshelf. It's kind of out of control right now. So.
There you go. Spring cleaning is coming. My basement's too cold right now, which is why I'm going to wait for spring. That's what I've been telling my wife the whole time. Hi, honey. Who else? In the back again.
John's been doing Python for 8 years. Finally got into the project where I'm using full-time. So, work with Jared downtown. And my spring cleaning, I've kind of been doing, I've been retiring for, another room.
Home ownership is its own reward. Who else? This gentleman.
My name is Bob. I was a pharmacist, and I'm going into programming. I got admitted to the Master of Software Development program here at the U. And my spring cleaning goal, I have 2 little boys that are growing out of clothes like crazy. So my goal is to get rid of all their too small clothes.
There you go. What is it? Kid to kid. That sounds like it would be a worthy trip. How about this gentleman right next to you, Bob?
My name is Sabbath. I am currently in sales and I'm going next semester to one of to the U for computer science, and my spring cleaning goal is my car. It's gross.
It's a good one. Yeah. Anybody else who's new? Want to introduce yourself? This gentleman who's been raising his hand in the plaid.
So my name's Brett. I'm an independent software consultant. I work contract with the state of Utah. Mostly Java is my programming language, but I've done Python and some R. And I also run the DevOps days, or one of the organizers. If you're going to talk to a little bit about that as well. But my cleanup has been my office, but it's been a goal for a number of years. So it is this year's spring.
There you go. How about the gentleman behind you?
I'm Terrell Shumway. Been doing Python for a while. I'm starting to learn Flask. And my cleanup projects, a good one would be my hard drive.
Yep.
Just give it
That's what I did. Don't tell my wife. This gentleman.
What are we doing?
Oh, sorry, we're doing intros. We like to do something non-code.
What I have to clean up? Is that what I
Your spring cleaning goal. Your name, occupation, and spring cleaning goal.
Okay, spring cleaning. My name's Daniel. I've been writing Python for, I don't know, 6-7 years. Just in the DevOps teams. I work at Draper at a company called Nav. And cleaning. Wow. That's a long list. My desk at work, we could start there.
It's always a good start. All right. Anybody else who's new? This gentleman over here.
I'm Jordan. I'm a security support engineer at Edify, and all of it, like, it all needs to be cleaned.
All of it.
Yeah.
I like it.
All the things.
So messy that just saying all of it instead of specifying. Okay, that's fair. Anybody else?
Just a book. Look at Marie Kondo, The Life-Changing Magic of Starting Email.
No, I think as of January 1st, everybody's heard of Marie Kondo. Because thank you, Netflix. Yeah. Have you guys seen the comic strip of I Am Developer? And what is this? Oh, it's Jira. Does it spark joy? Absolutely not. Then thank it and let it go. Although I am I like Jira a lot, just because it means that no matter what, my software isn't that bad. So, like when I'm writing a web app and I'm just like, nothing works, I just pop open Jira and they change something else, so made it work.
Try to buy a parking permit for this place.
Oh yeah, that place. Who hit like next, even though they actually hit add another vehicle like 4 or 5 times. Yeah, the worst interface. Sweet. Any sign of the pizza guy? No? Somebody want to run out there and see if there's somebody like begging to give us pizza? No? No pizza?
It's open.
Okay, well, now I have to code in front of a hungry crowd, so that's going to be fun. Please be kind. Okay, so how are we going to do this then? What's a good... Yeah. Let's do who's hiring and who's looking real quick. And then, if the pizza's not here by then I'll jump into my intro to Python talk. Who's hiring? Team. My company's hiring. That is probably the wrong link now, though. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. This is what happens when you get acquired, by the way. It goes from this to... They also changed their name from WeWork to the We Company. So...
And the logos,
Yep. We.co, and I think it's careers. Yeah. And then what's really fun about that is that, it says elevating the world's consciousness, but that is the weirdest, that's the best corporate motto ever. Yes. We Company Canopy, are these guys still hiring? Anybody know about this? I just kept it from last month.
They probably are.
Okay, they probably are. Talk to...
My works there, he said they're like trying to double the number of devs, so I'd say it's good dev.
Okay. And these were recruiters who were here last time. Amazon and Sandy, anybody know anything about that? Or... No? Just get rid of it then. Anybody else know anybody else hiring in the Valley? Isla.
We're looking for a senior Python dev.
Who's we?
Air UP Labs, the blood people. I will post the link right now. Basically, if you like what you see in my talk about GraphQL, that's at least a third of the job. We also do a lot of work in AWS, so any developers who come work for us will get a chance to learn some cloud skills.
Yay, DevOps. But not DevOps, but DevOps.
Yeah, we all have to pitch in.
Okay. Anybody else? Matt?
X-Mission is hiring.
X-Mission. Do you know what role?
Developer. They have to know Perl and Python.
Perl? Yeah. Gross. Anyone else? Oh, hi, Dylan. Glad you could make it.
Now, we're in Draper.
Which one?
Now.
How do you spell it? Just N-A?
Both Android, DevOps, we're running Kubernetes stuff, and all kinds of stuff.
I spell Kubernetes right?
Yep.
Sweet. Anything else? Anybody else? Know anybody else hiring? Or are these all the details? Yeah? Okay.
Something like that. Whatever. That's good enough. Google, I assume most people know.
Yeah, if you don't know how to Google, you probably shouldn't apply for a tech job. Who's looking? Anybody? Oh, what was that? What happened there? Okay, control one. Okay, good. Oh, people are pasting stuff. See, it's real time. It messes with me. Who's looking? Anybody?
Hey, I have a daughter who's a Python student graduating. They're going to med school next year, looking for an internship. So I don't know if the company's looking interns and so on.
Sweet.
Smart.
If the person's not here, I don't put their info up, if that's okay.
No, that's fine.
But she can always reference that. Yeah. Anybody else looking? Behind you.
Carol Shumway, just email Carol or whatever, something at carolshumway.com.
I don't know how to spell that. I can't even start.
Carol Shumway is T-E-R-R-E-L.
T-E-R-R-E-L.
S-H-U-M-W-A-Y. .com.
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, just wild card email. Carol at carolshumway.com.
Sweet. Anybody else?
And so my focus is on Flask, but I can, I'm learning Kubernetes and Docker.
I'm just gonna say cubes
Mhm.
with a K.
I'm really curious. Do you want me to give you my email? Or my
Do you have a laptop? I don't know.
Yeah,
If
laptop.
oh, you can just add it yourself.
Yeah, I'll add it. I've got experience doing Django in Python and like other front-end JavaScript stuff. So.
Full stack web dev. There you go. Anybody else? It's March. Companies are visiting their budgets. You might be up for that review that you're thinking about. Oh, okay. Community news, PyCon 2019 registrations are here. You can't get your early bird anymore. You're gonna be really late if you register now. I think this is gonna probably be the last couple weeks that you could even get the tickets if they're not already sold out. Workshops are a thing that you should probably sign up for, like soon. Yeah. New topic. Anybody want to give? Okay, so we have a crossroads here, and we're still waiting for pizza. Yeah. Anybody have a talk that they had in mind that they want to give?
I can talk about Flask.
Flask. I think we have.
Number 3.
Number 3. Sweet. I'm gonna put your name here.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go back up to see that it's Terrell. There we go. Do you want to give a talk next month? Or
I'd love to.
yeah, okay. I have you written down. Anybody want to try emceeing next month or the month after? Because so running into this thing where for some reason the next 2 months I won't be able to be here. Next month because of a vacation. Month after that because I'm going to be at PyCon giving a talk on how to run a talk. Pretty meta. Thank you. Oh, Dylan. Dylan raised his hand. He's going to be your MC for the next couple months.
I'll do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're new, we're gonna have some veterans if that's okay for this. But yeah. All right. So
I can present this. I can MC.
you could MC. I'm not gonna let you present and MC. But Dylan, we'll connect probably at work. Take a Friday lunch and I'll show you how this mess works.
You have shown me before.
Yes, but I'll show you again with instructions. Oh, is it the pizza guy? Pizza? Okay, so with that, we're gonna like network and stuff in there and figure out who else wants to give talks. And I'm gonna get this pizza squared away. Oh, one small thing about the pizza, you gotta eat it out here because you can't just eat it.
she's my sister here. Oh, no. I'm pretty good. My biggest
I actually really like this one. That's good.
Can you open it? Can you open it and then something that uses Python? Okay, very good.
Yeah, oh man.
Oh, yeah.
Allergic to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I can't have it. But it smells delicious. Right. So did you say you're a data engineer?
Analytics engineer. Basically with the warehouse for the hospital.
Yeah, mostly the same. Like, who's the Artemis Health? Artemis Health?
actually work, sometimes the hospital, it's like for companies on the wall. Oh, there was some they're not I don't
Yes, it basically core, it was platform. Stuff. Yeah. Super popular.
That was, it's been about a year. It seems like it's been about 4 years. They're about 5 years old. So you watch. They're about
Yeah, see, that's the
I don't have one specific, because I don't know any coding, so I would have to start. That's why I want to take time to look at. I don't want that is really good. There's one in New York, there's one in Texas, and because it's a boot camp, it's about, I think, 4 to 6 months. But like I know that they use as a coding boot camp, designing, and they don't have the data visualization yet. I think they're trying to see more people are interested in it. Yeah. So give me nature. In analytics, knowing programming is definitely because I'm a project manager. But a lot of things are like I do a lot of reporting as well and a lot of data. But I don't know programming, which is really hard. In that time, I go through something, so I can learn that quicker. And 4 years. And I know some about for data analytics, a lot of ways to do it by dollars. That's why I was like, I'll look into it. Oh, he's your husband? Oh, okay.
I learned a little bit, but I haven't.
Who's Graphene?
Yeah,
So what usually do you use on Tableau?
Tableau, I have 3 years experience.
But Tableau is the one you use mainly? Okay.
I used to, but now I don't.
Oh, you don't? Why don't you use it?
Because we have different clients, and the client is assigned to me.
Yeah, like I keep, I'm for Amex. I know that they do have a license for Tableau, but the department I work for doesn't. It's kind of odd. It's such a big company, but each department is almost like a little company. They have their own things and their own systems and have that. So I keep bugging my director. Yeah, like, but we should, because everything that I do, because I do all the dashboards for our team, I'm using Excel. Yeah, like I'm using Excel and then tons of big tables, I use a little bit of Access to just create some reports. So not everything is, but now we are building a new SharePoint that has detecting this data as information dashboards that might help us. But everything that I started on Schema and I'm like, Jesus, everything's going like everything that they are, all the data they're collecting, and so I feel automated a couple of things, at least all the graphs and everything. So, still, it's a lot of
Before I was switching jobs, American Express
yeah, so some departments they do have Tableau. I work for the HR department. In HR, but at least our department, we don't have a license for it, but other departments do. So, but I've been bugging my boss. Like, talk to our SVP, we need one. Even though I don't want to use it, but I'll learn it. Yeah, because it's quite a few hours, like just cleaning up the data.
Yeah, I definitely.
And then I use Graphene to create all the dashboards and to send it to us, where I know the time. Can you create all that automatically, like once you put the information in?
And you can also ask
So that's what I'm trying to, that's why I came here to see which courses I should take, like to talk to people and see what's the best to start with, because I have What's my question? So I don't know Python, I don't know programming, so, and I want to learn to use more with analytics. So what do you think to be, like, is there a course somewhere that or a training somewhere that I can really take?
There's a few places that we really good. I don't know what the biggest thing in my 2 cents is one, you need to have a lot of experience. Because otherwise you're out learning code. And then like 2 minutes later, alright, I'm done learning code. So you have to, as long as you're like, okay, I want to learn how to do stuff.
Yeah, it's the other one, because I do a lot of analysis.
Okay, so do you want to do like just what did you go into like BI stuff or business intelligence stuff, or just like straight up apps?
For now, would be
There's a few of them. There's Code Academy. There's Code.
because I know that like LinkedIn, they do have training there as well. I don't know.
Are you looking for free or paid?
I can pay.
Okay.
I'm looking at, like, if I could find it, I'm looking for like boot camps that would be more intensive. You know, the music like
These guys are. I don't know. I didn't go that route, so I don't.
you learn on your own.
No, I went to you.
Oh, did you go? Okay.
But that was like. So, programming is very I don't know if professor.
Yeah, because also on here, like, they do have a boot camp for coding, according to the boot camp, but it's more for developing, for developers. But I'm trying to get them to bring, is there anybody?
The only difference in what is really going to happen there is the libraries are going to start working. But like if you take I think there's only one person for your first beginning section, 95% of what you do is Graphene. They're both going to start extremely soon. You're not actually going to start split for a while. The other thing is it's just going to be kind of like one packages. It's like a pre-built set of tools that are start to get set. So developers know like how does the API work, how do I create function calls out to services, kind of start setting that up. Versus analytics, and like these are libraries, pandas, but for the most part, they're going to start very similar in mind.
Because I'm not sure about API as well, because with what we do, we can use API to just pull in that data.
There's going to be so much that's across backends. So this is how object work, this is how library work. I think you're really like, depends on what your intro is. You're like, well, I want to Python, but I spent 5 years doing Ruby or Java. Okay, this is different conversation. If you're like, really like, I haven't done programming, I'm not technical, and I haven't professional in-house training. Your intro is going to be very, very similar to get that ramp. I think there may be like they'll start to deviate, but not
For someone in
might
your,
disagree. I don't know.
for someone in your scenario, what a lot of people who have an office job who do that sort of thing really like is this program called Automate the Boring Stuff. Automate the Boring Stuff. It's by a guy named Al Swigert. You can find a lot of it on YouTube. I think he sells it on Udemy for like $10 or something like that. There's also a book that's free that you can get from it too if you don't want to have him walk you through it. And what it is it takes you through connecting to things that you're just going to do like in your normal day-to-day work if you use like Microsoft products while using Python.
Okay.
Which is to say, you don't normally use Python, but you normally use Microsoft Office quite extensively. And so it introduces you to certain topics sort of through that lens. So you access like Microsoft Excel and like what can you do in Excel, what can you do to an Excel document using Python. Because there's actually quite a bit that you can do to manipulate spreadsheets and including beyond the typical like formula. And it's not necessarily, you know, you're not going to be the best programmer coming out of it, but what you are going to do is have something that you can do immediately, and you can apply it like immediately. Yes. And that's a fantastic foundation.
How do you feel? How do you feel about that? Oh, we're at the end. Only 17 tonight.
That you're already familiar with, you're just adding a thing.
If you're like John or Josh or Jake or Dan, Dylan.
Yeah, you got it. Such a good memory.
I know. That's it.
You got there.
I'm cursed with confidence. So I was like, yeah, you're John.
And like I said, if you Google it, you should get the book itself, and it's open source, is what it is. It's not what. Sorry, it's top hit. Yeah, top hit. So you should be able to find it pretty easily. And like I said, there's videos that he sells where you watch it through it, but the book is like 9/10 of the way there. So, Automate the Boring Stuff. The guy's name is Al Swigert. it's actually what got me into Python in the first place. Because I was a business analyst at a hospital, and we used like some Tableau and stuff like that. But we did a lot of we didn't have server. We just had the one that yeah, the desktop version, and it's super limited if you have anything that needs to be automated. As in, it doesn't do any of that. So if you have a database or a visualization that needs updated frequently, you have to go in and manually hit the refresh button on every single data source. So I was trying to figure out a way to make that automated, and so I was digging through YouTube trying to come up with some solution for that, and his video incidentally popped up, and he was showing some of the things that you do in Python. At the time I was a Perl programmer, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier than Perl. I was a database administrator prior to that, and Perl was kind of the language that you use for that. But it's actually funny, you may or may not have seen this, they're relatively popular in the science circles, but the cartoon XKCD. There's one that he made in like 2004 about discovering Python after being a Perl programmer, and it was like, that literally happened to me, but it was just 15 years later. All you have to do is just look up XKCD and Python, and you'll get a kick out of it. But like that same experience happened to me, where it's like all you have to do is say print thing, and that's what it'll just print it. There's the thing about Perl programming. It's like you'll write something in the morning, you'll go eat lunch, you'll come back and be like, did I write that? It's just syntactically, it's really powerful, but in Perl, in Python, there's only one way to do things. What is it? The DAO is like there should only be one way to do any given thing. So it tries to make it. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Well, Perl, there's like 1,000 ways to do one thing, which is cool because it's like really flexible. And it sucks because it's really flexible.
These are like the guidelines of what Python does, or like structure, and it's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be easy to read. It's just be one way, which is the right way, and another way, which is the right way. Well, sit down, here's 10 options, pick one. Why would I pick one? I don't know, pick one. Just the best one. I don't know, I just said pick one. Like that's, there's a lot of other things, depending on what your background is. Perl, Java, 15 million, whatever. Python's oriented. The main goal of it is to be readable and maintainable. So other languages like Rust, also do those low access, food, and whatever, right? The goal of Python is to be maintainable, easy to read, and simple. And so a lot of these constructs. So if you ever you have to know it's open up a Python shell, and then it's like import this. Like give you the Zen of Python.
So based on what you're saying, you can connect like Python to Excel or
pretty much anything.
The cool thing about Python is because it's open source, it's like a totally open source language, and because it's so simple, it sort of started as like a duct tape language, and then some other major field was like, oh, well, that's pretty cool, because I don't really need processing power, I just need something that's syntactical that can tie things together. And so it just kind of kept rolling things into it, and then, for a while it just did stuff where you take the databases together, and then web people were like, well, that's pretty simple. Why don't we make frameworks for this? And then, data science people are like, well, that's pretty simple. Why don't we make this? Yeah. So if you want to connect, so for example, I have a client right now. They have a survey from this company called SurveyGizmo. And so they have clients that are banks. And these banks basically, they have employees that answer these surveys, and they do a whole bunch of data stuff on it, and then they make visualizations for it. So but they're always the same. So they said, we just want to automate this. So there's an API, I connect to SurveyGizmo, I download the data, I do all the manipulations, and then I connect it to Google Drive after I make the visualizations and upload them into a folder specifically for that particular credit union. And so, I made this like bizarre pipeline from like, one completely disparate company into Google Drive. And so, but I import the data and I use like Google Sheets at the same time, so that you can incorporate like all these weird technologies that have no relation to each other other than they exist. So if you want Microsoft Excel, for example, like let's say you had something that you have an Excel spreadsheet, and you need to do something that maybe is a little more complicated than the typical, cell-wise formula that you need to do. Well, Python can read it in, you can pull it in, and you can taken in as example a pandas data frame, which is this module that turns, it's sort of like the R of Python. Like Python is just a language, or R is just a language that manipulates data frames, which is just like flat files. And so you can connect flat files together, you can do manipulations on that sort of thing. Pandas is like a Python version of that. So you can do a bunch of data science stuff on it. So you do all your manipulations and you can just export it right back into Excel. And so the benefit to doing that, well, there's a couple. Like one is, let's say that you're running into the, what is it, 14 million line restriction on Excel, which I would run into like every 4 seconds at my job right now. Like 14 million lines is nothing. But you know, if you wanted to get like subsets of that and put them out in 15 Excel spreadsheets for whatever reason, you pull in your data and then you figure out how you're going to subdivide it and you push it out into an Excel file. Or let's say you wanted to pull all this stuff into Excel and you always had a report that was always generated the same way and you needed to make a PDF file. Well, you import your data, you figure out how you would present it, and you can say make an HTML file out of it, and then I don't remember what module it is, but there is a module that you can basically pull in an HTML file, read it, and then spit out PDF. And then you just rerun that every single time you need to run your report. And that you have to go into Excel and then run everything the way you normally do, and then print it off, because that's just like time-consuming and boring.
So would you, because part of my view of many things is using VBA, so would you pretty much substitute VBA for Python?
Yeah, VBA is, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff in VBA that's cool. The one thing that you couldn't necessarily do is like, you can't make an access database using Python. Like, because I know like the draw VBA in a lot of cases is like, oh, well, we want a little front-end database. Because that's all access is. It's basically a web application that has a mini database in the back end. But you could completely substitute all of the components of that by using SQLite as a database and say Flask as a front end. So you can do anything in Python that you can do in basically any of the Word documents. It just depends on how automated it's going to be and how much time you have to develop it. Because there's like this horizon where it's like sometimes if a task you just do it once, well, it'll be not even close to being worth it to automate it because you only do it once. But then if you do a task every hour and it saves you 30 minutes, then it's like, it needs to be done pronto because it's going to save you tons of time. But VBA is really cool. Well, so there's another thing that Python can do, and that is it can actually execute basically anything that's on your sheet. So if you want to, if you have a PowerShell script that needs executing at a certain time, you can have Python execute your PowerShell script. So what I did actually is so Outlook at my office doesn't sync to anything, because it's supposed to be secure, but that doesn't help me if I just need to know what times I need to be at work, for example. So what I did is I wrote a PowerShell script that Python executes, and it basically goes into Outlook and says, hey, fetch me, whatever the most recent calendar updates are. It turns them into a JSON object, and then it serializes that into a SQLite backend, which I then pump to Google Calendar. And it doesn't give me the details, it just says, I'm busy at X, Y, Z time. So if you have VBA, which you can, in a lot of cases, substitute for PowerShell, you can actually have Python execute your Microsoft stuff, and then just have it duct tape your things together. I mean, it's a great pipeline mode. You start with weird technology A and a bit to B. Like Python could probably tie the two of them together. In one way or another.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that book. But yeah, I found it here, so.
Yeah, it's great, and he takes you through like a lot of beginner stuff, and his whole tact is like, even if you don't want to be a programmer, you can get something out of that book, because it's like, you're probably going to do something in that book where it's like, it'll make it easier. And then once you start using Python for things like this, you are going to be like, wow, how did I not do this? This is so much faster. No problem.
What was that?
That's the screen recorder. I know. That's some recursion right there. Oh, better close this proprietary code here.
Quick memorize it.
Well, I mean, it is literally getting like live streamed, so now everybody can go through.
Oops. That's okay, it's not HIPAA.
Still like Visual Studio and Jupyter Notebooks.
For presentation, and lately for coding. Sorry? You want me? You just want to briefly, just a little bit. You really want some Jupyter. You really want some Jupyter.
I just want to know these two.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna get started. Somebody want to grab those people?
We're getting started.
Thank you.
Stop hitting.
All right. Can everybody see the screen okay? So this is kind of a refrain from January. Who was here for January's meetup? It was like an intro to Python again. So we're gonna kind of continue that thread, but have a little bit of fun with it. Who remembers kind of the main gist of last time? It was don't teach people Vim because they don't need to learn Vim. Don't teach people Emacs because they don't need to learn Emacs. Don't use SystemPython because that's always going to break. And it was pretty much just use Anaconda. If somebody's new at programming and they want to learn how to program, they should just pull up Anaconda. They go, they get the downloader, the installer. Can everybody read that okay? And
Spiders.
yeah, what? Oh, yes. So you just take this guy, you run it, / whatever. You go through the install. I don't want to do that again. It'll go download all the packages that you need, and it'll ask, do you want to install Visual Studio Code? To which you should reply, yes. Yes, I do. Before we dive into Visual Studio Code, there are other ways to run Python. So if somebody doesn't have an editor handy, I guess we can talk about Jupyter now. So I think it's just,
It also,
how do I run
when you
Jupyter?
install Anaconda, it installs Jupyter Notebooks because it's the same company.
Which Python? Oh, okay, that's why.
I like your prompt.
Me too. Bin Python. Is that it? IPython. Ah, okay. So, yes. Okay. Notebook. Hey, Dylan, you run this stuff all the time, right?
Yes.
Is the community Jupyter Notebook?
What? What is it now?
Instead of IPython, just type Jupyter. Jupyter. Yeah. Did you not install it?
I guess not. That's what I get.
So pip ins conda
Okay.
install.
Should I use Conda or pip, Dylan?
Conda. Alright, pip install conda.
Oh, that's not going to do it either. Okay, here we go. There's too many ways to install stuff now. That's my point right now. I know what I'm doing, mostly.
I don't know. Does it even make a difference? I'm so ignorant about that.
You want a guaranteed way to install something on the right Python version. This is the correct way now, apparently, for system-wide.
3.7 and all that?
They made it trickier. What is it? Jupyter? Is it Jupyter Notebook? Do you say Jupyter or Jupyter?
Jupyter. Come on.
Jupyter. I bet you also say GIF instead of GIF.
Okay. And type Jupyter space lab. There you go.
There we go. No such file or directory.
Install Jupyter lab separate. Never mind. Just type Jupyter. Just go.
What's wrong with you, Dylan? Yep, it's Jupyter Notebook. It's funny because this is like what Dylan does for a living, and yet he wasn't able to help me.
You do it in front of a crowd for a living.
So this is going to open a bunch of stuff. In this case, it's actually just opening my home directory. So have a gander at all of the crap in my home directory. I need some Marie Kondo in my home directory. Okay, none of this stuff sparks joy right here.
Speaking of stuff.
So I just made this untitled folder. I could do all that fun stuff. So yeah, this is just another interface for people to interact with things. And I have barely any idea how to use it. I know. I'm just trying to see how to rename it. But yeah, let's do new Python 3, and that's going to spawn a little kernel. And this is Python. Is this Python? Is that how you code? Sometimes I wonder. Anyway. Import sys. Right? It's true. Who's never seen a Jupyter notebook? Like, who's new to coding? And you're like, what is this?
I wish that I'd never seen
Oh. I'm pretty happy for them. I'm actually going to be doing my presentation using a Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook just talks to a Python kernel in the back. It's not that you're actually running Python in your browser. A lot of people are like, oh, that's cool. No, it's sending the commands to your machine and then processing them and outputting them back to this lovely little interface. The reason it's called a notebook, who's ever been in like a chemistry lab and had to do that, or in high school or whatever? Remember those lab notebooks that you had to do? It's exactly the same concept. It's a whole encapsulation of the work that you're doing. You're supposed to record everything that you've done. You're supposed to, show your work, annotate, make comments, all that fun stuff. So Jupyter comes with some fun extras. So you can hit M here, for example, and now we're in Markdown mode. I could have also gone up here and just changed this. And now I'm in Markdown mode, and I can say hello Jupyter/world, and then I hit Shift Enter, and that's going to render that Markdown. Ooh, pretty. What's really cool about this stuff, I won't get too into it, but you could take a deep dive, and you'll find that. Now, I have to I have a repo of this, but basically you can do a whole presentation with this. You can mark each one of these inputs as a breakpoint, or you can mark it as being part of the presentation. So you could have live coding in your presentation. So you're coding Python for the first time. What do? Everybody does print hello world and all that fun stuff, right? Okay, well, print hello world. Is this going to work? No. Yes. You need parentheses now. When does Python 3, when does Python 2 go away? When's the end of life? Nope. December 31st of this year is the last day. So there you go. But you might find, if you're new to Python, you might find an old tutorial somewhere and you're like, hey, why doesn't this work? And you're already deterred. Well, it's that easy now. So we're going to do hello world. Yeah. Let's do the next thing that we always do. Hello somebody, right? Well, let's set a variable name. So name equals. Dylan was telling me about the Bobiverse, so we're going to do Bob.
Bob1.
Bob1. Oh. You haven't gotten that far in it, have you? Anyway. And we're from Utah, so let's say howdy. And there we go. So howdy, Bob. Now, let's talk about some Python 3 stuff. Another reason that you should. This looks really long, right? Like, this is annoying. Who does this? Okay? Who knows a better way to do this? Who said that? Yes, F strings. Also, there are things called F strings. I mean, we're not like Utah swearing about strings. This is like actually, they're called F strings, okay? And I think they look something like this. You can correct me. And then like that.
So you just put an F in front of that?
You just put an F, and you also have your variable that's assigned. And Python is now in the year 2006. So, because a lot of other programming languages have had this for a while. I mean, who'd have thought that JavaScript would get this before we did?
I hated it for a while, and then I tried it, and I was just, this isn't too bad.
Yeah. Yep. That's how I felt about data science, so. Yeah, so these are F strings. This is Python. What did we cover last time? We didn't cover any conditionals. So I'm just doing like a beginning Python talk at the beginning of these. Sorry for people who are like more advanced and getting annoyed. Let's have more fun actually. I'm gonna go back here. So we were talking about like pip installing something. We pip installed stuff. What is pip? What's it stand for? Performance Enhancement Plan, which is what I'm going to be on if I keep talking crap about my work, right? No, it's Python installer package. It is I think that's what it stands for, but basically it lets you install other people's code. So here's the thing, code is for people, right? So if you write a piece of code and somebody else wants to use it, they should just be able to come in and use it and not have to repeat all that, and they can build off of that. So programming where we're at today, it's all standing on other people's shoulders. It's like turtles all the way down, okay? Like the fact that I can use a touchpad mouse and, you know, still use a terminal, but it's rendered in like using a GPU, which is kind of crazy. Like all this stuff, it builds on other people's knowledge. No one person knows how to build a mouse. No one person knows how to build a laptop screen. So it's the same with code. No one person can write an entire web application framework from scratch. And if they do, and they come in to interview at your company, and they insist that they're going to write it better than anything out there, I'm not going to hire them. That's just how it is. If you can't work with other people's code, you're not going to get very far in programming. So let's talk about how do you get other people's stuff. So I had this command. Let's walk through it real quick. If you've never, worked on the command line, this might look scary. It's really not. So we're going to use Python 3.7, the latest version of Python. -m means, hey, I have a module call. In this case, it's pip, right? You could also do this, pip3 install Jupyter, but I want to make sure that it's actually going to be the correct Python version. And what should we install? Requests? Yeah. So Request is a great library. It basically makes a web request, and it can also make web requests of like a get, a patch, update, all the stuff that you would do on the web on a REST framework. You don't have to know what all this stuff is because you've used the internet, right? You've used a web browser, so we're just going to play with it there. So we install that guy, and we're installed. So we just added a new library. Now what the heck does that mean? I might have to restart the kernel for this, right? Anybody know? Oh, you're right, I don't have to. Okay, what's in this library? I'm going to do help. Oh, by the way, tab completion is a thing in IPython notebooks, or in Python notebooks. People know that, right? Okay, do you guys know that you can do control clicks? Dylan, do you know this trick? Yeah, so if you control click, you can actually have two cursors. And this is super helpful.
Actually,
mind blowing. There you go.
It's really nice when you want to just like add a bullet point to a whole list of things. You can just drag the cursor down.
Yeah, it's also nice. Yeah, oh yeah. It's also nice for deleting stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty nice. But let's do help request. And again, shift enter. You can also hit run up here. It does the same thing. Keyboard shortcuts are your friend though. Can everybody read this okay, or is it too small? Okay. So this is actually one of the best help files out there. Another reason request is so wildly popular. The original author of requests, have you seen those like etchings, those like block wood prints on random Python manuals? Let's look at one here. Request Python. This one right there. So this. Anybody know his name offhand? I'm trying to remember. But every single PyCon you'll end up. Oh yeah, it's Kenneth. There we go. Anyway, he has this guy, this logo. It's tattooed on his arm. It's so awesome. So, just saying. Requests. Well, what is this? Oh, here it is, Kenneth, right here, author. Oh, sweet. He has cake in there. That's cool. So, requests, basic Python HTTP library. Here's the usage, so you can actually see these triple carets. That means, hey, add a Python prompt, try typing this in. I mean, usually they're like, oh, I could do Python like that, and then I could do, or sorry, actually, let me show you an actual Python prompt. So I always put IPython because it's much easier to use. This is what they mean. You just type in Python, you're ready to start coding. Python's an interpreted language. You don't have to shove it through a bunch of stuff and compile it and then run your binary. It's just line by line being compiled and interpreted and executed. So let's just copy it like that. Import requests. R equals what requests. See, and there's no tab completion in normal Python. In IPython there is. What website should I get? Probably just python.org. Oh, you know what I can get? Yeah. Oh, you know what else I could get? Dev. So I bought that for us, by the way. So we now own slc.dev as a group. It's pretty fancy schmancy, I think. Haven't done anything with it yet, so this is going to be not the best. Everybody see vim.dev? Yeah. Oh, this is just a redirect to... Oh, did they switch it finally? Oh, that's nice of them. So as soon as the dev domains came out, which was last Thursday, to the general public, somebody bought vim.dev and it redirected to Emacs. And does Emacs? Oh, Emacs.dev still redirects to Vim. Oh, what?
So does it feel like Emacs users are finally using real, like, modern editors than
There we go. Okay, so I had the wrong site. SLCPython does redirect, but did not like that. So r.statuscode. It's 200. If you don't know the status codes, that's okay.
Go to HTTP cat. Yes!
I'm on it, Dylan. You can always just go to http.cat and then put in your status code.
Okay. Do 403. Do 420. Do 420.
So, which one? 420?
Yeah.
What is 420? I don't remember that one. Of course. And that's how we lost our nonprofit status. I wonder what 100 is. Continue. So, yeah, there's lots of resources to help you learn this stuff. We can actually get the, okay, r.content. And that's going to give us all of the content of that web page. And it's a fairly small web page. And yeah, I almost want to do a beautiful soup example, but I feel like that's a bit too hardcore for us. What's the question?
I've only used beautiful soup, but is this request also similar to web scraping type of thing?
So this is how you get the page, and this is how you like work with the pipes. But the actual like code in there, like the yeah.
It's just a way to get all the code.
Yeah. So instead of playing with web scraping, so the question is about web scraping. So Let's do that again. So import. No, it's a good question. This is kind of open discussion time. Let's see. Requests.get. So if I just bring up the content here, like this is barely readable. Like this will parse out into, you know, our website here, which is pretty nice. We're going to ignore that I haven't updated it. But it doesn't, like, this data isn't organized that well for Python. So if you want to grab data off the web, like what is an API in the first place, right? API is basically like everybody's interacted with an API, but they don't know it. And it's probably not technically an API, but I'm just going to call it one. Have you ever gone to like a restaurant and they have this thing, it's called a menu? That's kind of what the API is. That's what there's available to you. There's a protocol to talking to your server about what things you're requesting from there. They're going to stop until you post them some money in some APIs. Like, it's kind of the same thing. It's a back and forth. And yeah, and sorry I'm being overly simplistic, but what you gonna do? So I'm trying to remember, anybody know the space API? There's like a number of astronauts in space API. Is this it? Yeah, here it is. So this is the open notify. There's a bunch of cool stuff. So we're gonna copy this guy. And we're going to be good coders, and we're going to make sure that that URL is set as a variable. And we're going to do equals request.get URL r.content, and notice it comes back as a string. We can also do r.json, and it'll come back a little bit more organized. And I'm not sure what type this is, so this is a big thing too. In computer programming, there's different types of data structures and objects and all that. So the main ones you need to think about are like strings is just a group of characters put together. Numbers are numbers, but there's different kinds. A float is different than an integer. A float is going to be like a sub number, and it's just in the computer's memory, it's saved in a different way. Python kind of hides a bit of this from us, but if we ever need to know, we can just type in type. So what do we think r.content is versus r.json? So r.json comes back as a dictionary. Dictionary is a very interesting type. On one side you have keys, and on the other side you have values. But it gets more interesting because those values could be other dictionaries. It could be any Python object. So it's dictionaries all the way down. It could be an array. An array is just a group of objects. It could be numbers. It could be dictionaries. It could be other arrays. It could be strings. And so people in space right now, there's 3. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I know, right? Where's my flying car? Yeah, there's no Richard Branson in here. It'll tell you what craft. So let's grab this guy. So r.json. I'm just going to name it space for fun. Space. And how do you do a lookup on a dictionary? So this is how we can grab the key. So this is the dictionary. Space is our dictionary. This is our key lookup, and it's going to be people. So what's the output of this going to be? Just the list. So for people following along, here we go. And because it's a list, we could do fun stuff with this too. And I'll just copy it. And we could, you know, grab just the first person, grab, and lists in Python are 0 delimited, which is why I always put 0 in my tag over here. 2 is 3, right? It's the third person. Who knows how to reverse this without using the reverse method? ::(-1). But why? What's 1 colon do? Yeah, so we have list slicing, so that's a pretty cool feature too. So we could do 1 colon, what's that going to do? It's going to get the second through nth object, however long the list is. So you could do this, put that on the other side. What are we going to get? The first one through whatever's an integer 1, which means just the first one, because it's not inclusive. What do 2 colons do?
Everything?
Dylan, what do 2 colons do? And it's,
Select all items.
yes. Now what do 2 colons, what does the third parameter in this colon mean? Yeah, the stepwise function, or it's not even a stepwise function, is it? It's just the step. So every X amount. So I think that's going to pick everything, right? But this will pick every, the first one,
Second, and then
skip one, second.
You gotta go backwards?
Yeah, you add a negative. So to answer the question how to reverse the list, there you go. So there's your fun Python fact. If you're in university and they tell you, please take this array and reverse it in Python, but you can't use the reverse function, and you put that in, the teacher will say that you're a smartass, and this is an oddly specific anecdote, isn't it? But yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's how I got into my first class. They're like, well, you have to know a little bit of programming. So yeah, I did not feel like writing the whole how do you actually reverse something. No, you don't have to learn that stuff in real life. Maybe in university, but university's never been real life, so. Yeah, don't say that.
It's more than a compliment.
But yeah, so that's how you interact with an API. We're not going to get into things like authentication and all that other stuff, but there's a lot of open APIs out there, and all you have to do is pull up docs, and then you can use them. And then this Open Notify API is one of my favorite ones to teach people with now, the beginnings of web development. This is pretty much what Python on the back end looks like now. Is we're generating and parsing APIs for the most part. We're not really doing template generation anymore, so we're not like making this actual page on the back end and then sending it anymore. That is mostly being handled on the front by a bunch of crazy JavaScript libraries. I think there's like over 1,000, and now it's like 2,000, and like how long has passed? A couple seconds, so now there's like 3,000 or 4,000. So like they're everywhere. There's lots of different ways to do it in JavaScript. But yeah, this is kind of cool, isn't it? But yeah, somebody was talking about Flask. You're the Flask expert. Flask is how I learned Python. So people who are wondering, Poku. Oh wait. Yeah, I just really, really like this is one of my favorite tutorial manual pages. Just gorgeous. Really nicely formatted, and front and center you have a programming example. I just think that's super fun. Yeah, I'm about to wrap up. Are there questions right now for this refrain of an introduction to Python?
I know this is total coincide, but stride by zero, I've never done it. And you must know what error comes up.
Wait, what?
Colon, zero.
Oh, okay.
It's got an error out. It's got it. How does it error out? I got enough.
So the question is, what happens when I put a 0 here? It's a value error. Slice step cannot be 0.
Very specific.
That's all you're filming.
So go back to the. I'm going to turn this into a tutorial example right here. To go back to that, just so you know, when you're programming, you're never going to run into errors ever. Like all your code's just going to run perfectly the first time. Should I tell them?
Especially if you just play it on paper.
Yeah. Should I tell them or no? Okay, no, that's never going to happen. We're going to get errors like this all the time. What we can do is something called exception handling. So how this works is that we're going to try. Okay? You got to have heart and determination. You got to just try. Okay? And if you don't make it, then
Except some people fail.
yeah, and sometimes you fail, and they're the exception.
Then that's a good thing.
and that is a good thing.
Or you could use algebraic data types as the fix everything.
Get out. So all we're going to do is we're going to say exception. No, except. Right. Oh, I said exception. Too much JavaScript. I know, right? So
Python thing.
we can, and white space matters, by the way, with Python. Everybody's like, but anyway, it's just 4 spaces after your setup here. It's a space, dang it. So in this case, it's a value error. So we want to see what happens when we catch a value error, right? And we're going to set this up. So this would be super helpful in places where, let's say this 0, for example, is somebody else's value. It's like num or whatever. Step. Although I think, is step reserved? No. But for now, we're going to pretend it's 0. Somebody set it to 0. And this will set up our value error. If we didn't have this, or if we had the wrong error, it's not going to catch it.
You should mention you shouldn't do a naked except.
Yes, you shouldn't do a naked except.
It's just except.
Exception, or you don't have to do exception. Oh, you can just do except now.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do this. You can. You probably. In most cases, you don't want to do this. You want to get in the habit of knowing exactly what you're trying to accept and make an exception for. You can't make an exception for everybody. Okay. You can't catch them all. This is called Pokemon exception handling because you got to catch them all. We don't do this, okay?
It's a good time to import this.
Oh, okay, yes. We should end all of our beginning Python with an import this, shouldn't we? But first we're going to import anti-gravity. So import anti-gravity opens one of the best XKCDs. You're flying, how, Python? It's just print hello world. Oh, look, it's out of date now. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that was like 2004 or 5.
That was a long time ago. I just typed import anti-gravity. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I'm gonna come back to anti-gravity in 1 sec because I found something out about this that you'll like. Import this is the Zen of Python by Tim Peters. Basically, if you ever have a question, like I've solved so many arguments with my coworkers using this. They're like, "Oh man, we should do it this way and this way and this way," and I'll just stare at them, and I'll say, "Errors should never pass silently." I'm like, I'm not even talking about errors, Ferris. You can't just like randomly use a line out of there. But yeah, this is a really, really good little haiku. Not haiku. It's a Zen of Python. It's absolutely not a haiku. I'm tired today. Can you tell everybody? Okay.
My favorite one's the last one.
Let's do more of those, yeah. I'm going to show you guys something pretty cool. So we have import anti-gravity. And you're like, how does it work even? So I was messing around. Like, how do you open anybody know how to open a web browser page if you have a script? Yeah, me neither. We're going to pretend I don't. So, that's it. Yeah, okay. So, all of this stuff here we go. Okay. Packages. Now I feel bad because I can't remember where.
I never remember where to.
I know, right?
The way I always do it is so actually open the interpreter. Right, so like import anti-gravity again. So I import a module. Okay, now go back. Anti-gravity ._file. Hey, that's where it is. Okay. Python has these magic _ variables, and file is one that gets populated for every module when you import it.
But let's take a look at this code. So, something really interesting This is almost malicious code, not quite.
I mean, have you looked to import this? That's almost malicious code.
But here's something fun about this. This line number 2 and line number 5, these are the only lines that are actually being executed when you import anti-gravity. And the reason is, Randall Munroe, the creator of XKCD, he snuck in his own little function here, which is XKCD 426, which describes how to do a geohashing game. And then, in this case, he shows how to use his geohashing algorithm that he has defined right here. What's really fun about it is it also has a really good example of how to do docstring testing. So this is docstring testing. You have your function right here, right? And you know what outputs it's supposed to have. So you just pretend you have a Python terminal in your comment. And if you run a unit test, or sorry, if you run docstring tests on this, it will run the actual code with the parameters you give it and assert that they match this. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah. The Munroe algorithm for geohashing is supposed to be a way to play a geohashing game with people, no matter where you are. And this last little bit right here, that's the Dow Jones index for the last Dow Jones index that you've had. So, yeah, you can always check out XKCD 426. Yeah, this is a really old, and you put the date, yeah. Depending on each day and the Dow Jones index, it'll like do a geohash and tell you a latitude and longitude of stuff. But I know, right? These nerds and their Munroe algorithm. But no, it's pretty fun. How does the web browser package work? We can get into that. How much time do you use your talk?
It's about half an hour.
Okay. We're going to try to look at that, and then we're going to jump over to Isla's talk. Do you want to start setting up? Okay. Okay, so let's just do what we just did. So, Python, import web browser, web browser dot file. My guess is it probably has a list of all of the all of the OS and distributions and different ways to open in each distribution. Yeah. So yeah, this is how it does it, to answer your question. I think the answer is carefully. Yeah. This is pretty cool. I'm going to keep reading about this, but I'm not going to because Isla has a talk to give. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. That's been yet another introduction to Python, a different part of it. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. Oh, do you need a adapter?
No.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, let me change your... Oh, why is it so weird?
There we go. That's better. Okay, so I've got a few slides, and first of all, can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, please let me know if I start speaking too softly. That's definitely a problem. It's a short number of slides, and then hopefully there's a bit of time for me to actually demonstrate my working endpoint. If not, I posted links to the code. It's pretty much ready to go with the setup file. And I'll check in my sample queries so that you can just copy and paste them into the endpoint. Okay, so quick overview of GraphQL. It's an open source data query and modification language for APIs. It was invented by Facebook, but it's been adopted into the Linux Foundation as the GraphQL Foundation. It is a specification, and that makes it different from REST, because REST, I don't know how many of you are familiar with REST endpoints, if you've worked with them, if you've designed them. That's an architectural pattern, not really a specification. Pretty much how you implement REST is entirely up to you. GraphQL is for declarative data fetching, and the original intent was for mobile app design, and you'll see why in a sec. So before we get into specs and architecture decisions, here is a very simple hello world in Graphene. This is the absolute bare minimum you need. You have a schema. That's pretty much this stuff right here, and that resolve hello function that I'm pointing to right there. All that does is return something and an argument, which is an argument to this little field right up there that says hello graphene.string. Argument is graphene string with the default value. And then you declare your schema at the bottom. That's it. That's all you need to get a GraphQL endpoint set up. Once you have that, you basically feed it some JSON to get a result. Because we have a default value, if all I feed it is hello, I will actually get something back. If I set an argument to something that I want, it will return that, because that's what I wrote in the resolver. And then I call schema.execute to actually do something. And then you get the result back as a dictionary, as like Ferris just showed. So you use the hello argument as your key to get your value back. And this is what it looks like when you run it. So, hello world in GraphQL. So, what really is GraphQL, now that you've actually seen a bit of code that runs it? It's a query language that gives you something called CRUD. I don't know who's familiar with CRUD operations. So for those of you who aren't, CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Those are the 4 major operations you do on data. In a database, in a data set, in a data store. So it gives you the query language that you can use to do all those operations. The query also describes all the data requirements. In the case of our little Hello World application, it was just a string that you return. So to do CRUD operations, you have two structures, a query for the read part and a mutation for the create, update, delete operations. It also gives you a strong type system. So this is all defined in the schema definition language. You've got strings, ints, floats, object types, so you can create nested structures. And it's pretty easy to explore that, and I'll show that in a sec. The GraphQL frameworks, the frameworks that implement the specification actually do type enforcement on any of the functions that GraphQL exposes. And also, the framework will validate queries and mutations against what you've written. It also gives you type introspection, also through the endpoint. You can say, tell me what this schema is, and it will tell you. Tell me what types are supported. It will tell you. It also gives you some execution semantics. A lot of it is decided per framework, but there are some basics. For example, queries can be supported in parallel, but a mutation where you actually alter data has to be done serially, which you would expect because you would want to take a data record, lock it, make a change, release it, and continue down the line. You probably don't want multiples multiple processes trying to hit that data table or object all at once. Okay, any questions so far? I know I'm stepping through this kind of fast.
Can you
Yes.
override those?
The execution semantics?
Yeah.
No, that's set up in the framework. Or you could write your own framework.
Fork it.
Yep.
Is the type enforcement for data coming in and coming out of the API?
Yes.
Both? Okay.
Yeah. The coming in is enforced at the endpoint level. Coming out is in your code, and your code will break if your types don't match up. Yes?
Do I get response codes, or is it different paradigm completely?
Different paradigm completely.
So I don't get to use HTTP cat.
So this is just the query language. You can hook it up to different backends, like a MongoDB or a
Oh yes,
database or-
absolutely. In fact, at my work, we do hook it up to Mongo.
Okay.
My code example uses SQLite because I wanted to do something really, really, really simple.
Okay.
But yeah, that entirely depends on what you stick into your backend. I'm using SQL Alchemy. You can use Mongo Engine. You can use whatever object relational model or document model that you want in conjunction with the GraphQL framework implementation you're using. So remember how I said that you can do some exploration and get the schema and type introspection? Basically, GraphQL has an in-browser IDE in pretty much every major framework that implements GraphQL. In-browser IDE, you just set up an endpoint with GraphQL and type /GraphQL if you enable this, and then you can go in and start typing and getting data back. So here, I set up a little test data set with the students of Hogwarts, the houses, and the students' pets. So here I'm doing a query on the pets, but I was dumb, and instead of giving it a string name, I gave it a number, and it's really not happy. You've got a tooltip popping up to say what the error is. If you hit the little run button right here, it'll give you a nice, easy-to-read error message. And the GraphQL IDE also gives you a list of types that are supported. Another nice thing that GraphQL does is it allows you to mark fields as deprecated, so that you don't just go delete stuff right away or have fields that you're not using hang around forever. You mark it as deprecated, and it will actually say it in the documentation, and this can be hidden too. So I deprecated a field called animal because that's not that descriptive for a pet, and replaced it with species. And it shouldn't let you type that into the IDE as well. Okay. So here is the proper calling of the pet query. This is Ron's owl. And as you can see here, GraphQL's superpower is nested data, as you would expect from the name graph. It allows you to traverse relationships between nodes. The nodes are your data, and the edges are the relationships. So I've nested student into the pet data type, and then each student belongs to a house. But that's a fairly simple example.
When you put the request in, you're asking for this output as well, right?
Yeah, I'm specifying only the fields that I want. There's a lot more fields available, but here I've been very specific about exactly what I want, and that's exactly what GraphQL gives back to you.
Of course, you're making a statement about the universe here, but the student is owned by the cats.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Yes, absolutely. I don't own my cats, they own me. Especially at 5 in the morning when they want food. Yeah, I don't like to get up early. Okay, here is an alternative way of entering variables into the IDE. I generally don't work like this, but I thought I'd show it anyway because it's useful. And I couldn't find that many examples online of this being used. So some of the developers, the front-end developers at work like to work like this, so I thought I'd show it. You basically just tell the query what the the expected variable will be, and you just list them down here and query variables, and you get the same thing back. Sorry, go.
No, I'm sorry for interrupting you. That was rude.
No.
So you didn't mind.
Okay.
So you just get all the stuff that's on the right when you build that query. That's
Yeah.
what you said. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Okay. So here is the schema introspection that I mentioned. You basically just type __ schema, and it gives me some information about it, and it also gives me some documentation. I wasn't great about filling in every single documentation detail, but you can totally do that if you want. The fact that it's a string is useful information. And here is an entire list of types that are supported. The page goes all the way down. But this is super handy if you're working with something unfamiliar. And we're beginning to see more and more GraphQL endpoints going up. If you want to see a really nicely designed one, go to GitHub. GitHub has been introducing their GraphQL endpoints to replace their old REST API. The old REST API used to give you this massive data dump that you had to go and parse through to get anything useful, like say download numbers. Now you can go to the GraphQL API and say, I just want my download numbers, give them to me. And that's all you get back. Or in our CI/CD build system, our continuous integration, continuous deployment build system, we build pull requests on our code, but it's useful to annotate the builds with the branch number because nobody can remember what the pull request number was. So we actually, in the middle of the build, go to our GitHub repo and get the branch name through GraphQL, through a Python request, using the Python request library. It's really nice. All you have to do is give it.
Faster than REST API or slow?
It depends, and I'm going to show that in a sec. But you can make very simple queries with just a little bit of JSON in the Python request library and get useful information back.
You should use AIO HTTP though, because then you can do it asynchronously now.
I don't need to do it async in the middle of my build, because I can't proceed any further until my build step runs anyway. So it works. Anyway, okay, so that's the schema. This is how to get types through the type introspection system. So very, very handy. And now a little bit of advantage, disadvantage of using Graphene. So you get the requested data only. You don't have to worry so much about under or overfetching data. This is especially good if you want to design reactive front ends. Say you've got a very complicated front end or you're designing a mobile app, that becomes really important. This exposes one endpoint and one endpoint only, so you don't have to worry about documenting a large number of endpoints. Another nice thing is you can pull data from multiple sources. You can pull from various databases, different legacy data sources, whatever you need to support, you can do this and hide it in front of this fairly simple single endpoint system. There is something more formal called Schema Stitching that's supported in the JavaScript Apollo framework. There is a team at my work that actually uses it to stitch together some legacy databases and services, but I haven't really touched it. It's just a way of formalizing the process of taking these old schemas and merging them together and then presenting the data as a unified whole. Very handy for kind of phasing out legacy systems and substituting something more modern or building microservices underneath all that. It can be easier to represent complex data and relationships, as you saw the nesting structure from the pet to the student to the house. But you can also really trip yourself up with that too if you're not careful about how you design your endpoint. I showed you deprecation. That's fairly easy to do. It's just an argument in your Graphene field, or whatever GraphQL framework you're using. The frameworks give you pagination and cursors for free. If there's time, I'll demonstrate what that looks like. That's totally built into the standard, so you don't have to worry about implementing it yourself. And there is a mechanism called subscriptions that push real-time updates from the server back to a client, I guess over WebSockets mostly. So you subscribe, and then on events from the server, you get notifications to the client. I'm not really going to talk about that because that goes a bit deeper into the non-CRUD stuff, but it's pretty interesting, and I've got a link to read up on it at the end. So some disadvantages. Well, to be fair, I've got to cover the pros and the cons of using this. The problem is you get a lot of boilerplate because you've got data, and you've frequently got object relation models, ORMs, or document models, and that has to be taken and reflected in the GraphQL framework. So you end up duplicating a lot of that, almost duplicating that code, or writing a lot of boilerplate. The code example that I wrote up uses a library called Relay, which is a data fetching framework that actually abstracts away a lot of the boilerplate, so you're not going to see as much of it in the code I wrote. And SQL Alchemy also takes care of some of this for you too. So that's handy, but if you're writing just a bare bones Graphene app, you can get a lot of boilerplate and code duplication, and if you mess up your type mappings, everything will break. Yeah, there's other tools also for schema generation.
If you were doing it with REST, it would just not work.
Yeah. You can't leverage HTTP caching as easily as you do with REST APIs. The strategies for caching tend to be more complicated and involve external libraries and tools. So trade-offs there. There can be a mismatch between the types supported in the data source and the types supported in Graphene. So sometimes you have to write custom serialization and deserialization code. I got bitten by this a couple of weeks ago because we had some infinity values in our MongoDB collections that could not be translated into a float number in Graphene. So I had to write a bit of custom code to take care of that. It was annoying. Also, sometimes you have to make multiple calls to a database for one query, which can also mean that your code performance will go down. So you have to be really strategic about how you pull data from your data sources. There are tools, though, that are available to cache data after you've called it, or to make batch calls to your database. Those are showing up more and more because these performance degradations are a real problem and are a barrier to people actually using GraphQL.
I think it's kind of along the same lines as the caching, just the way frameworks are set up. So we use Ember on our front end as a framework. And Ember really likes REST. Like, it's totally designed for REST. And you had to build, there's a lot of extra code built in to abstract like what you're getting back from GraphQL into essentially REST structures in the front end. And so the front end person is like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said Apollo?
Apollo is the JavaScript GraphQL framework. The
one.
Yes.
The one that
everybody uses.
The best.
And because Facebook, GraphQL's initial implementation was JavaScript, so most of the most advanced tools are available in JavaScript. They do eventually make it into other languages. But yeah, the JavaScript framework is the most popular, yes.
And things, like I know there's patterns where, there's examples for Apollo where you can take all of your queries and transform them into basically Git URLs. So it takes the query and serializes it as a query parameter.
Yeah.
So that means that you can get HTTP caching with Git. So there's ways to get around that particular one,
But yeah, just GraphQL by itself, yeah, you don't get to leverage it quite as well, unfortunately.
But with as a query parameter, there's a maximum limitation of characters you can
Exactly.
file.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Simpler stuff, sure, but
Yeah.
more complicated to get.
That's an excellent point, for sure. Okay, and some resources, and I've posted the link to the slides, so you can just go and get these. There's a lot of really good learning materials out there. The How to GraphQL site has videos explaining in more depth the architecture and the design of the frameworks. I posted a link to the Graphene Django tutorial because my code example uses Flask. That was a little faster for me to code up, so that's what I did. So yeah, definitely worth checking at least some of these out. Okay, how are you guys feeling? Should we look at the actual endpoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. So you can see that I ran a bit of data before I came here. You know what? Maybe I'll just mirror my displays. I can do that.
You said this is in SQLite?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm using as my data store. I basically wrote a lot of raw JSON code, and I'm reading it in.
So are you reading it in relationally? Like, are you using an ORM? Or?
Yeah, SQL Alchemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to do that by hand. That's,
Yeah.
ugh. I'm not doing that. Oh, that's better. Okay. Now I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so some cool things. Here's the docs. And you get history. Yeah, that is nice. Okay, not a lot of screen space, but okay. So you can start off just by typing query. And if you do shift spacebar, you get a list of supported query types. So the defaults with the relay connection I set up is just to get a dump of all the data structures that I support. So I've got some pre-canned ones here. So it just gives me some basics. It goes and fills in ID as the default if I don't give it any other data fields to return. But if I do shift spacebar again, I can request another field. Let me close that so it's a little easier to see. And the ID is a randomly generated ID that the GraphQL framework assigns to my objects while it's running. Set out.
So if I was trying to consume your endpoint, I would essentially take this query here and I can use that in the request library to get, okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. So all houses, here's all students.
You send it as the body.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the root field. The rest of this is payload. I did promise.
And actually, yeah, maybe you could, so we can see this here, could you do it from the command line? Your request?
No.
You want to try that?
No, no, I don't.
Okay.
No. No, that's more code than I really want to do right now.
Try posting something up. I guess it's not a post, but what would be in GraphQL to write data into?
I am going to cover that. That's the mutations. Okay, so here's, I said I would show you how the cursors work. This is basically it. You get a start cursor, you get an end cursor, and you can see if there's a next page or a previous page. Because I just generated a tiny little bit of data, there isn't any. But you would basically go say, oh, do I have a next page? Okay. Let me just query on the end cursor, which will take me to the next set of pages. So super simple to do. Yes?
Okay, I have two questions.
Okay.
Just trying to understand everything that's going on. So you know how like you put the start cursor underneath the end cursor and everything?
Yeah.
And that was similar to how in the previous example, how you had like Godwin Griffin, like the founder, and then you asked for like the name and the ID.
Yeah.
So like in this way, you're basically querying specific things from the information.
Yep.
So like the reason why you're pressing shift is just because like you can only get the variables that are the possible children. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I don't have to use shift cursor if I don't.
Oh yeah,
or
you
shift.
can write it in, but like there's only a certain amount of possibility because there's only a certain amount of children.
Yeah.
And also another question is, whenever you called all students, you press on the left hand side, you press Q underscore all.
Yep.
Not all children, all students. So I guess like why is there written like Q underscore whenever like there's no Q underscore when in that?
Oh, so I'm actually giving the query a name.
Oh, okay, I understand.
You don't actually have to do that. So let's say I wanted to start from scratch. I can just do pet by student name. So here's my student name. Let's say she doesn't have any pets.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Who has permission to create query names? Is anybody who consumes it, or?
It's just a convenience, actually.
But like, let's say you have like 1 million people accessing your endpoint, like that. Is it like each user gets their own, or?
Nope. No, it's just a convenience in this interactive IDE.
Oh, okay.
So that you can,
Oh, so there's all this.
oops.
So,
So
on
let's
one
say I
side,
do
there's all
that.
these different queries that you need.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you
I'm
can
sorry,
have,
I'm finally coming.
you can have more than one query here. You just give it a name so that you can run the one you actually want. It won't run all of them. They're considered separate in the IDE.
Can we give Cho a cat? Too hard?
Yes, I think we can. Let's see, where's my, you know what, I'll do it from scratch. So mutation is the create, update, and delete. I didn't implement a delete function, but I have a create and an update. Just to give it a name, because it gets cranky if you have an anonymous query or mutation and a named one at the same time. It really doesn't like that. So we can create a pet, and we have to give it input, and input is a dictionary, so I'm glad you talked about that. And there you can also get the types. I didn't implement the mutation ID. That would be an identifier for the mutation that you ran. If you were going to do this properly in a real application, you'd want to identify every CRUD operation you do, or every CUD operation you do.
So would it be, so that's some built-in auditing though? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, okay, say Cho wants to adopt a hyperactive tuxedo cat named Charlie, who likes to poke you in the face at 5 in the morning. I love my cats. Yeah, that didn't happen to me this morning at all.
If you tried to update with animal even though it was deprecated, would you get a warning?
I think so. Let's try it. No, it's not even, well, okay. Well, I didn't even hook it up, but let's see what happens. I'm curious. I didn't test that. Oops, sorry. What am I missing? Ah, I love live coding. Okay, I've probably done a typo.
There's a syntax in the right.
Fortunately, that's why I saved some of the queries. There we go. Okay, so I had a little status thing saying true, just to let me know that the query succeeded. So let's change this to animal. And actually, nah, I don't want to type that much. Let's say Harry decides he likes cats. Yep, it errors. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so if we wanted to check on that, yep, we found him. There. So he's been added to the database.
Does Harry have one or two animal types?
Probably has 2. Let's see.
I assume it based on what implementation was, right?
It should be added. So I did an add to the database. Okay. Let's do student by name. Where's the field? Oh, no, actually I don't have a relationship back to student. Let's try. is owned by the pet, yeah.
So this pet.
So I would have,
Harry, so there's probably 2 points on Harry, all right? You're going to get both, or Charlie as well.
or here, do this. I know I should be typing name, but I'm lazy. Oh, okay, so he's identified with Cho. Okay. I'd have to check my implementation, but yeah. Okay. I think that's enough for tonight. It's like 8:40.
Applause for Isla, I think. Huzzah. Who did not get a name tag? We ran out. That's my bad. I had like a huge roll of them. So your name tag is also your raffle ticket. What number did we get to? 15, I think? $17? Where's that? Oh, there's the marker. Anybody 18? Check your thing. No? Okay, raise your hand if you didn't get a... Oh wow, that's a lot. Can't really turn these in half. We're gonna have some fun with this. Okay, memorize your number. We got to 17, right? Okay, raise your hand. You gotta raise it high, or I can't see you. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Got it? Cool.
What was that?
You...
You know what I mean?
Yep. What was it? Oh, here. Yeah, let's use this guy, shall we? Everybody can read that okay? No?
Yep.
Oh, I know why it's freaking out. Oh, well. Oh, don't need to fix it. What did we get to? 31? But there's actually me, but I'm 0, so we'll just subtract it. There we go. Random. And random dot rand int. So we're going to take the number of Pythonistas and 0 to that. Pair programming, does this look good?
Is that inclusive?
Does that include the endpoint?
The 0 or the 31? It does include the 31. It does include 0. Yes, it's random.randint, not random.random. 5. Oh yeah, so probably, congrats, you know. I'm gonna, first off, I gotta show off all these books that we got. Let's give away 4 books. So you can pick from any of these books, but once 4 are picked, that's it. So got Python for Finance, which is almost exactly like it sounds. If you ever wanted to try using a computer to trade stocks, this gets into a deep dive of algorithmic, that's how you say it, trading. Teach your kids to code. This is from No Starch. Brian, what was it? Yeah, Bryson. Great book, K through 12. Like, you could, give that to anybody. Impractical Python projects. This book is a lot of fun. This is based on, if I'm not mistaken, there was a talk at PyCon a couple of years ago, and it was similarly titled about impractical Python projects. And the whole example was how the individual used Python to stitch together a bunch of MP3s and then name them, and then it was pretty fun. This author is Lee Vaughn. I don't think it's the same as the speaker, but it's based on that talk. Sorry? This book?
No.
I don't know. It was in the last couple of years. It was very recent. Might have been either 2018 or 17. Mission Python. This teaches you how to code a game. Pretty fun. It's Python. Serious Python. So if you're not feeling impractical, we got serious Python. And I'll take this guy out of here. And we have the Python playground, if you're feeling impractical again. And 2 scoops of Django, 1.11. So if you're learning Django, 1.11 is the latest long-term support version. 2.1 is out, but 1.11 is probably going to be supported for another 4 years at least. So, really great book. This one teaches you like enterprise web development from front to back, everything from like how to test your projects, how to deploy it, and it is all based on making an ice cream shop in Django. So that's pretty fun. Anybody know PyDanny on the web? If you ever see PyDanny, this is his book. Him and his wife both wrote this. All right. So number 5, you won. What are you?
You're just using the default random number generator, which is deterministic.
Yeah, I already seeded it so that you wouldn't win. So.
Python series.
The serious Python?
Yeah.
Okay, serious Python. Congrats. And I'm just going to run this again.
5 again. Oh,
22. Boom.
Sure. I have little people. Sure.
Maybe I should have brought that for myself.
Yes.
I already have 2 scoops and 1 dog, so.
12.
Oh, that's me.
Hey. Isla.
Hey. I gotta take the impractical Python.
Impractical.
You guys change your place.
Okay, last one of the night, so we can keep a couple books for next time. 29. Yeah.
The other impractical one.
The other the playground?
Playground, yeah.
Sweet. All right. So our next meetup is the first Wednesday of April. Can somebody pull bag check? Is that the 3rd? Yeah. Yeah. Nope, not a valid year. Yeah, it's the 3rd, it looks like. So April 3rd, Dylan's probably going to be your MC.
Woohoo!
Because I'm going to be overseas. The one after that. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's year 5. And then the next one will be May 1st, on May Day. So, Wednesday the 3rd, Wednesday the 1st. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I'll see you in June.
Hey, Ferris,
but we'll see you in April.
I forgot to mention, like, the community.
Oh, right. DevOps Days
is coming in May 14th and 15th. We invite everyone to come. I've got some card stickers.